Aloha Mai Kākou, welcome to our channel.
Gee.
We've been wanting to do this video. You can tell by the title, this is a pros and cons Hawai'i Island versus Oʻahu. Someone had actually requested this as well, and we also already had the idea of doing this because we are born and raised, both of us, on the island of Oʻahu, which is the island that we currently live on. We just recently moved back. We lived, how old were we when we moved to Hawai'i Island?
4 years ago, 26, and you're like 24.
I was 24 and he was 26. We moved to the Big Island, also known as Hawai'i Island, also known as Mokunui. We lived there for 4 years total. We had our third child there. I started my little macaron side business there. We really fell in love with the place. If people are wondering why did we even move there in the first place, we moved there to get closer to my family because they moved up 4 years prior to us, and so we decided to follow my parents. During the time when we were living there, we have actually thought of moving back to Oʻahu, and then this is what we came up with. We came up with this pros and cons list. You want to screenshot that. I kind of like redid it because it wasn't on this specific paper, but basically during the time that we thought of moving back, we decided to do a pros and cons list on the islands like Hawai'i Island versus Oʻahu. Let's start off with the cons. Let's start off with the bad things first, and then we can leave off on a better positive note. You'll be left with the positive things in your mind. Oh yeah, let's start with Oʻahu. So Oʻahu, the cons of living on Oʻahu is, the biggest con is the traffic and the overcrowdedness. Everyone kind of complains about the traffic. Even when we told people that we're moving back to Oʻahu, everyone's like, oh no, the traffic.
Why?
And why?
I guess mostly because of the traffic, is because this is like the most popular island.
Yeah. And
So
also,
like everybody
yeah,
wants to come here.
I actually have that on the cons too, is the amount of, I know it's starting to rain, the amount of tourists,
And we're living on the east side.
the amount of tourists that come to Oʻahu. There are more tourists that come to the island of Oʻahu versus oh my god, it's good. It's your, okay, we gotta stop. Okay.
Maybe you could do a video by yourself.
It's up to you. It's up to you. Darren got so much darker since we've been here because we've been going to the beach and we've been going hiking.
It makes my teeth look whiter.
Okay, so it started to weirdly rain outside, so we decided to bring the camera indoors now. Okay, so what were we leaving off on? Oh yeah, so the amount of tourists that come to any of the Hawaiian Islands is mainly Oʻahu. Traffic, overcrowdedness, a lot more tourists on this island. That's kind of one of the cons, at least in our eyes, that's what it is.
Great.
The biggest, I feel like, actually this, I have a timeline too. I feel like the actual biggest con of living here is how expensive it is. Expensive. So let's say, for instance, what is it to buy a house here? You know the numbers more than I do.
Cheapest house you'll find probably in Oʻahu would be like a small little house. Probably range from 300,000, I think, is like the lowest.
To buy a house in Hawai'i.
And that could even be like the smallest yard, the smallest house, like a 2-bedroom house.
I heard people renting 1-bedrooms for about like $900 to $1,000. Renting around here, it ranges from $1,500 to $3,000, like around that range, and it depends like how many bedrooms you want. I think it goes from 2 bedrooms to the bigger 4 bedrooms would be around like $3,000 a month just to rent. We personally, we lived in a low-income housing type of complex. It was more like a townhouse in Kapolei, and it was supposed to be catered to low income. Got it because Darren wasn't working at the time, and a 3-bedroom apartment cost, what was it, 1,000?
Or like 1,200.
It was like, yeah, 1,200, and that's supposed to be low income. And I've heard it being way cheaper in the mainland.
Right.
So that is actually the only cons that I have on this list for Oʻahu. Oʻahu pros. So for us, this is personally what we wrote down. We have our Ohana, our family, and our friends here, both born and raised here. We have a lot of family and friends.
And on Oʻahu, there's more opportunity Obviously there's more work, there's more business. Even with the tourists, you know, there's just way more jobs. Easier to get a job and
yeah, there's
more steady.
Yeah, there's more steady work here. There's a lot more job opportunities. The weather, which is ironic right now, we're gonna say, is better here.
It's raining right now, but actually the east side, so similar to Big Island, like Hilo, but it hasn't rained for like a while. Just literally raining right now.
Actually just sunny, but it just started raining surprisingly. The weather, I feel like it is way better here. It's more consistent here. It's more sunnier here. The beaches, this was like one of our personal things, is the beaches. We really miss the beaches, and that's one of the main reasons why we moved back to Oʻahu. More stuff to do. Since it has a city like Waikiki, Honolulu, there's a lot more stuff to do. There's even like things in the smaller cities, like in Pearl City, in Kapolei now, in Kaneohe. There's just like so much more things to do here. Even though it's a smaller island versus Hawai'i Island, there's so many more things that they have here on the island to offer. For instance, like Ice Palace, our zoo is a lot bigger. In Honolulu, we have an aquarium here. We have like iTrampoline, Chuck E. Cheese. I don't know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 different malls. And then a lot more shopping centers, a lot more bowling alleys. I think there's like a bowling alley in what? There's like a lot of bowling alleys.
Gyms.
Oh, gyms, yeah.
A lot of gyms.
Also, hospitals and schools are a whole lot better here.
Obviously, in Big Island, there isn't that much hospitals. A lot of times when people get really badly hurt, there's that like medevac in Oʻahu usually. It's just because they don't have that much hospitals and doctors.
Yeah, I think on Hawai'i Island, what is there? There's only like 2 hospitals or 3 hospitals maybe at the most. Yeah. I don't know, but they get flown to Oʻahu.
To like the big
to the hospitals here. There's just better hospitals here. And personally, even like for our children's pediatricians, the one that we had here, like every time we call, they'll just like, okay, come in. It will be that day. When we were living on Hawai'i Island, it was like we called and like, okay, you have to come in and put your name on the list. Okay, so we call and put our name on the list, and they're like, okay, we'll call you back if we're able to fit you in. I don't know, very hard to get a doctor's appointment. So cons for Hawai'i Island, the weather. For me, the biggest thing was the weather, because well, we lived on the east side of Hawai'i Island. We lived in Hilo, and we actually lived in a rainforest, in Ola'a rainforest, so it was just always raining.
Yeah, like it could just rain for days straight, non-stop.
Yeah, we wanted to do things like go out to the beach, we wanted to go hiking, and it would just be raining all the time. I think this past year was what really got to us, because it was raining literally from January to present time till like, what is this month, July. It's pretty much raining every single day, and there's been like some sunny days here and there, but February, the month of February, which is my birthday, and I wanted to like fun things like hiking, go beach, I couldn't do any of that because the whole month in February rained every single day. Tie in with the weather and how rainy it was always moldy, and all of our things would get moldy. I heard of people like getting really badly affected by mold. If you watch my vlogs, you'll see like I met up with other vloggers that lived in Hawaii. One of the vloggers is Ohana Mama, and she actually had to move out of like 2 homes in Hilo side because of the mold and how severely bad it was affecting her and her family. And I've seen other people just leave because of the mold issue. It didn't affect us like our health wise. The only thing it really affected was I become like a germaphobe, and everything would get moldy. So like our clothes would get moldy, and wash and dry our clothes, we put them in our jars, and then later a week or a month goes by,
so much moisture.
Yeah, all the moisture gets to it, and so when you're like putting your new clothes into the jar, the clothes that's already in there that's supposed to be clean is all filled with mold. I couldn't put my clean clothes into the drawers because in the drawers was all moldy, and I don't know, like everything was getting mold, like my purses, my shoes. And it was so cold where we lived as well that the windows would sweat. That's
what it was too. It'd sweat, it would get cold, then moisture, the windows sweat, and then when it gets hot, all that moisture absorbs into the clothes material and get mold.
Another big thing that is a con on Hawai'i Island is it's very slow in the work field.
Last year I got laid off from work in like September. So from September all the way, and it's weird because I worked at one job for 3 days, they laid me off. Then I went to this other job, I worked for a week, and they laid me off, which had never ever happened that short. Usually at least half a year to a year I would work in a job. I was off for like 7 months straight. I went back to work this last March for like 4 months, and I got laid off in June. So 7 months I was laid off, worked for 4 months, and I laid off again.
The work there is very like limited, and even for me, so I started my own like little side business just to make money while I could stay at home. But once it came time for Paulele to be able to, I felt comfortable for her to be babysat and for her to go to school soon, I started to apply to even other jobs there. I applied to like so many bank jobs, so many receptionist jobs, like office type of jobs, and I did go into interviews, but I never got any job. And the only job I worked there was at TJ Maxx, and I knew I was gonna get it because it's an easy job, and I know that they're gonna just hire basically anyone. Work there is very limited, and that's what everyone does talk about too, is that there's no work there. Another con, so there's not that much to do on Hawai'i Island. So you would think Hawai'i Island is so much bigger than Oʻahu. I believe everyone says you can fit 5 Oʻahus in Hawai'i Island. Like that's how big Hawai'i Island is, and it is super big. But with all that land and everything, you would think there's like more things to do, but in actuality there's not that much to do there. It's mainly land, which is a good thing, but if you're kind of used to doing things like going, like I said, to the mall or like the zoo or iTrampoline, or your kids want to do some fun things like that, there's nothing like that there. And I believe they only had like one bowling alley, and they closed it down. No, they had a bowling alley in Hilo, they closed that down. Then they had a bowling alley in Volcano at the national park. But with the whole Kilauea collapsing, the crater collapsing, and the volcanic explosions and the lava fissures and all that stuff, you can't even go to the Volcano National Park. So there goes that bowling alley. Was there any bowling alley in Kona? Oh yeah, there is. Yeah, there's one bowling alley in Kona, and so that's the only one in the island. I feel like Hawai'i Island has only one bowling alley on the whole entire island, and it can fit 5 Oʻahus on it. That's a huge island. And I believe Oʻahu already I can name one in Kailua, one in Pro City, one in Aiea.
I think the thing too about Big Island, like even though it's a big island, with what's going on right now with the lava, it's like different parts of the island always changes. Like what's going on right now, was it Leilani, Pahoa side? Yeah,
so maybe that's why they kind of there's not that much stuff to do there, or like them to build like things like that. It's because of the whole earthquakes and the whole lava thing. That's why they can't build a lot more stuff, versus here this island hasn't erupted in such a long time. The volcano is not active, it's dormant. Is that what you call it? Yeah. Another con on Hawai'i Island is the hospitals. It ties into like what we were talking about earlier. There's not that much hospitals, and you actually end up having to, if it's a huge like serious injury, you're gonna end up being flown into Honolulu anyway. So that kind of makes like no sense. I heard of people when we moved there, people were like, you're gonna give birth over there. Like they told us horror kind of stories. It's just not that good, it's not that professional. People are like, really, you're gonna want to give birth over there? But and then some people even in Hilo, they would drive to the better hospital, which would be in Waimea, which is like a couple hours away, and they would rather go to that one than the Hilo one, even though the Hilo one is like where they're near. But I don't know, for our experience, actually we had a really good experience giving birth at Hilo Hospital. So I really liked it. I mean, everyone was nice and everything went smoothly and well. I didn't mind. The only thing hospital or like medical wise is, like I said, like when I would call to make my children's doctor's appointments, I would just call and say, you gotta do a walk-in, and then I'll do the walk-in, and then they're like, okay, you gotta write your name on the list. I'm like, okay. And then they're like, okay, we'll call you in later, and if you can get fit in till later time. And I'm just like, can you just see my kid? Like, I need my kid to be seen. People on the Big Island would have doctors on Oʻahu, and so they would go ahead and have their doctor's appointments here. They go to their dentist here. They would fly just for their dentist appointments. They would fly for their doctor's appointments. My nephew, he had his leg broken, and he would fly for his appointments to Oʻahu. every like month, so that's crazy. Natural disasters is another con for Hawai'i Island.
Well, right now, since over 2 months already, the lava, or is it the Fissure 8?
Yeah.
In Leilani Estate has been erupting and flowing for over almost 3 months already. And they even said that it could go on for months to even years. Volcano scientists, they're saying it could go on, they don't even know how long.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I know a lot of people, they say like, oh, people are scared, so they're moving. There's a lot of people ask, oh, how come you guys are moving? Oh, is it because of the lava? It wasn't just because of the lava, obviously all this stuff we've been talking about, but it kind of, little bit of it is that too. Does that make sense? Because like we have a lot of friends and family on Big Island, them too are even saying like, oh man, this lava stuff is crazy. And I have friends that born and raised on Big Island, they lived there their whole life, but they never seen the lava this bad, and air quality, it's sad. You know, people are still living right there, and obviously our thoughts and our prayers go out to all the families and friends out there that are still, you know, going through, infected. And
we experienced like a lot of earthquakes there. If you go down in the videos, you'll see that I had vlogged it. I filmed the earthquake. The biggest one that we felt, I think it was like a 6.9. Even that whole day like was filled with earthquakes, but that one was the biggest. So there's earthquakes, there's the lava. We weren't really affected by the lava because the fissures were like down on the ocean level, and we lived up in the mountains. But we lived near volcano, and which is Volcano National Park is, and from all the volcanic explosions we can smell the sulfur right outside of our home. So we wouldn't even go outside because there is the volcanic ash and there is the volcanic gases. The sulfur, like, it really affected us. And we know people personally, kids, classmates, they ended up moving back to Oʻahu as well. So that's just crazy how it affects a lot of people, and it really did affect us as well. Let's get on to the pros of Hawai'i Island. So the pros for us was, number one, family, Ohana and friends. My parents live up there. I have basically all my brothers live up there, my nieces and nephews. Darren has his grandpa that lives up there and his uncle as well. He became friends with a lot of people because we lived up there for 4 years total. So yeah, I have a lot of cousins too as well. So that was like the main thing that made us live there longer, is because my parents live there and I'm just like very close to my parents. Another pro for Hawai'i Island is that it is really, really cheap to live.
Oh yeah. Buying a house or renting. But I don't know, to me it's obviously it's cheap, but then having a job is harder because there's not that much jobs. But even though it's cheap, it's still, that's the hard part about kind of we think about Big Island, is because even though it's cheap, it's hard to, you know, find a job and make a good living. And we have a lot of friends and family that, you know, that do it and they make it up there, so good job to them. And there's a lot of hard workers up there and stuff.
Buying a house is cheaper. You can buy land for about $10,000, an acre to 2 acres for like $10,000 or $20,000 around there. Rent, personally, we rented our first home, like an actual home, not an apartment, not a townhome. We rented our first actual house, and it was a 3-bedroom house for only $985, and that's super, super cheap. Here, a 3-bedroom house, like I said, would be about $2,000, the cheapest thing you can get, I feel. Maybe 15, but it's gonna be about like 2,000 or up for rent for a 3-bedroom house. That's what it is. It's like so weird how Hawai'i Island is cheaper to rent. There's no work on Hawai'i Island, but it's cheaper to rent and buy and live. But on Oʻahu, it's more work, but it's more expensive to live and more expensive to buy a house. It is cheaper, besides renting and homes, it is cheaper even to like register your car, like pay for your car registration. A lot more things are cheaper, but I think the reason why it's cheaper is because there's not that much jobs. Another pro for Hawai'i Island is the nature and just the land itself. It's just so beautiful there. A lot of the land is untouched.
Even like the lava, they say it's always growing. Oh, how much? Like 26,000 gallons. Is that per day?
I don't know.
I think per day. That's a lot of lava.
Crazy. You can see it because it's been just overflowing, and we would see it even every night. It would be so big that it lights up the sky, and we live up in the mountain, and like I said, it's down like the sea level, and we can see it so far away. It's so beautiful. it is a beautiful thing. Mauna Kea and all that stuff, and like going up Saddle Road, such a beautiful scenery, and going even along the coast. There's black sand beaches there. Going hiking in the forest and all that stuff, it's just so much more beautiful because the moss and the way like everything looks and all the native plants and all the different plants there is. But the thing is, the weather stop you from being able to go out, enjoy like the beaches and hiking. I mean, you could go hiking in the rain. Not everyone is like a fan of going hiking in the rain like me. I'm not really that kind of person. And another pro on Hawai'i Island is that it's less crowded. So there's more people on Big Island versus Oahu. There's like way more people here. It's overly populated. Even though there's a lot of families that do fly into Hawai'i Island, it's still not that crowded. It's weird because it's not that crowded, but since there's not really traffic, you would think that since there's not that much people and there's not traffic, that things aren't gonna get overly crowded. But the thing is, there's only so much places.
There's only one mall.
Yeah, there's
in the
only
whole island.
one enclosed mall.
And one Zippy's.
There's only one mall, there's only one Zippy's on the whole entire island. And so everyone's gonna go to that one mall. So it gets super crowded in there because there's only one mall. There's only like one theater, I think, Hilo side. So like on each side of the island, like Kona side, no, there's probably like a couple on Kona side, but on Hilo side there's only one movie theater, and which is in the mall. And so every time we would watch movies, there's always a line. We always had to wait, and that never really happened here. We would go to the movies, but this is like you have to wait in line and you have to like go early. You gotta stand in line for like over an hour just to make sure you have like good seats so you can be one of the first people to walk in. That's our experience from being born and raised on the island of Oahu, living here pretty much our entire lives, and then we lived on the Big Island for 4 years total. Pros and cons. So for us, it was like a clear win when we wrote everything down. As you can see, the cons for Oahu is just 3 things for us. Cons for Hawai'i Island is like way more. Oahu has way more pros, and Hawai'i Island has lesser pros. So personally for us, this is what we wanted in life. Like, we wanted to move back to Oahu because we miss everything. We're still young, there's so much stuff to do here and for our kids to do. We also want our kids to experience the same things that we've experienced when we were younger. And I feel like if you want to live on Hawai'i Island, your lifestyle has to be a Hawai'i Island lifestyle. You have to be super chill, laid back, like someone who doesn't really like to go out, doesn't like to go shopping. You lost your Shopkins? Oh, did you tell Tita to help you?
No, I was playing them, and I was playing them to training.
We're joined in by Paulele. This is our 3rd child, our Hawai'i Island born. So I guess like advice for families, if you're thinking about moving to which island.
I'm super hungry.
Oahu, I feel like has better schools here versus Hawai'i Island, but for Olelo Hawaii wise, if you are having your kids in Hawaiian immersion, like we have all 3 of our kids in Hawaiian immersion. They have good schools here. Hawai'i Island is a little bit more better with the Olelo Hawaii for schools, but if you're like just even a regular school, the schools here on Oahu are better than Hawai'i Island. If you want to have the island life but also have that city life as well, Oahu is probably like the best island for you. We like the city, we like the country as well. But if you're like a straight up country person who doesn't mind just chilling every weekend in your yard or going to the beach when it's not rainy or having to drive, Hawai'i Island is for you. But for us, we start to feel stuck because there's like not that much stuff to do, and you just kind of go into the same routine every day and you do the same thing every day. You'll go to the same store because there's only one store. You'll go to the same Target, you go to the same mall. If it's raining, which it was raining like a whole lot, we just were only able to stay home or go to the same mall. That was like the only 2 things we could do, and we just felt like no growth and no variety. If we wanted to switch things up, like go to a different place, you can't because there's only that one store, you know what I mean? We just felt stuck We felt like no growth there. We wanted more opportunities, so we moved here. Another con, I guess, to live on Hawai'i Island is that everything is so far away. So there's only one Costco on the island, and it's in Kona. So if you lived in Hilo or any other place like Waimea, if you lived in South Point, you would have to drive hours away just to go to one Costco. Versus here, you can drive like 20 minutes and you're already at a Costco. And like where we lived in Kapolei, we live like down the road from a Costco. So everything is way more close here. It's more convenient here on Oahu versus Hawai'i Island. Everything is so far away. You have to drive hours away just to go to places. Things are just way out of the way. So that was our pros and our cons for Hawai'i Island and Oahu. For us, Hawai'i Island versus Oahu, clearly Oahu won for us. Yeah. I don't know what to say. Mahalo for watching. I feel like there's more things for us to talk about, but if you guys have any questions below, leave them and we'll just reply to you guys.
Couple 800 move here.
So don't forget to like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, which means hit. So hit that subscribe button. Hui ho!
Kaulana ngā pua o Hawai'i Upa ama o te o ka aina